Hi everyone, and welcome to the Aquarius Weekly Illumination Reading. This is I Am Illuminated Tarot and Meaning-Based Spiritual Coaching Services. I am Lauren. Hi and welcome. So this is a weekly but timeless reading that I complete for each sign each month. This is a little different than my previous readings in seeing that I am a new mother and having to slightly change my routine a little bit. But what these readings are meant to do are they're meant to engage the core principles of curiosity, courage, and contemplation, which I call the Triad of Engagement, to help engage your unique, internal, authentic self, your individual, singular self, with your external spiritual purpose. And this is to help you basically start to feel in flow with your life and to also move into the feeling of emotional fulfillment where we can experience joy and happiness and just that sense of peace and actually also feeling of being in service to the greater collective human experience because you're fulfilling your spiritual purpose, your piece of the puzzle. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to start with a Power of Surrender card where we are going to take a look at what you're meant to be curious about this week for yourselves, Aquarius. So when we're talking about curiosity, we're talking about engaging ourselves with that childlike sense of openness and receptivity towards both our internal selves as well as our external environment. This is where we get to break down the barriers of what happens when we become a little bit older, where we start to kind of build these elements of I can't because I've already experienced this. A little bit of that, we start to move into kind of the status quo in our own lives where, well, it's just always been that way, or I've just always been this way, or my external environment's always this way. And this is where we get to engage with curiosity. And curiosity boils down to allowing us to tap into the awe and wonder of life, because we will never know everything about ourselves as well as our external environment. And curiosity is what allows us to go back in time towards that childlike sense of awe and wonder, where we're kind of looking at things from an innocent, naive perspective of we don't know what's around the corner. So it's meant to help get us excited and open and receptive again to those parts of ourselves that we might have closed ourselves off to, or those parts of our environment that we have closed ourselves off to and are not allowing us to connect fully as ourselves with our external spiritual purpose. So for curiosity this week, Aquarius, we have surrender to rest and sleep. Now, I'm a Taurus myself, and I love my naps. And so I love this card. It says, to prevent burnout, slow down. Honor your need for quiet time and peaceful sleep to rejuvenate your mind, body, and spirit. Now, when we're thinking about the element of curiosity, when I look at this, it's not just sleep, it's rest. And rest can take many forms. It doesn't mean that you have to literally take a nap. Rest can sometimes just mean surrendering yourself to not mentally pushing yourself or berating yourself for maybe not doing something. Now, I know because I have a lot of Gemini in my chart, I can overthink things. I understand what it's like to be in your head. I have a lot of air signs, just like you, Aquarius. You are an air sign. A lot of air in my chart. And so again, I can sympathize with being in your head and overthinking. And when I really am intuitively reading this surrender to rest and sleep, there's this element of just resting the mind. Resting the mind from worry or from pushing yourself on a mental level of I'm not getting enough done, or this isn't coming out the exact way that I wanted. And sometimes what we don't realize is we can be so much in our head and so worried about these kinds of things up here that it actually will start to manifest as exhaustion in our physical body. And that's really when we need to surrender to that feeling of just, okay, I need to let my body rest through resting my mind. And that can be hard. That can be really hard when we have a lot of things on our plate, when we perhaps have looming bigger, I guess what I would call responsibilities in life. And we all have those. But in order for us to engage fully with what we are deciding to take action on throughout the week, which is where we move into courage and also where we step into our power, we have to first be curious about ourselves and our body, and making sure first that this part of ourself is healthy and rested and ready to be able to take action. And that can't happen when your mind is going 1,000 miles a minute and when your body is exhausted. So this week, it's really telling me, for you guys specifically, if you're going to build a question, because this is for working with curiosity, the question that I would ask yourself to help bring this very general message into a place of individuality for you specifically is to ask yourself this question throughout the week. Where does my mind start to kind of go down a rabbit hole? Where does my mind start to get the better of me? Where do I start to stress myself out on a mental level to where I physically feel drained? And to really be aware of that this week. Is there something that's worrying you? Is there a project or an event, or is there some aspect of your work environment where you're just constantly thinking and thinking and thinking and can't shut it off, can't shut it off, can't shut it off? Because even when we sleep, if we go to sleep with our mind like that, that's where we end up having dreams that are also like that. Or where we just, even when we're trying to rest our body, our mind is keeping us in this engaged state and we can't fully just relax ourselves to the feeling of flow, which is actually where we get to tap into being connected to spirit and ultimately to our spiritual purpose. So this week is all about quieting your mind and asking yourself that question, where is my mind racing? Where do I need to kind of shut that down and just let it go for this week? Because the more that you look to let that go, the more whatever you're focusing on in that realm, you'll have answers. You'll have spirit come in and be able to really help you, perhaps even see how to navigate around something that's been worrying you. There's something here that's kind of coming through. There's an element of worry or stress or possible frustration on a mental level that's getting in the way of you being able to just feel physically good. And also a little bit of a jumbled energy. Where I'm feeling a little bit like perhaps you guys are trying to almost like work out a problem or a solution to a problem, and you're actually blocking that solution from coming in. So this week, again, just rest your mind, rest your body. And if you have to put something off for just 1 week, it's just 1 week. And I bet the more that you kind of let it go, the more it's almost like when you can't remember the name of an actor or something along those lines when you're trying to tell a story to your friends, and then later on in the evening when you're finally kind of zoning out, all of a sudden the name springs to you. And that's how we are on a spiritual level as well. It's hard for us to connect to our spiritual purpose in a fully engaged way when we have so much mental chatter and chaos going on, and we're not just allowing ourselves to be open to what we're meant to fulfill. And trust me, spirit will come in and provide you with those answers at all times, but often we're the ones that are preventing ourselves from hearing those answers. So now we're going to move into and engage with the principle of courage. And courage is where we get a chance to really this week step into our place of empowerment, because courage means the courage to take action. And we can't control our external environment. We can't control the people in our external environment either. But what we can control is ourselves, and we can control the actions we choose to take, and we can choose our own perspective towards those actions and towards our external environment. And we can learn to become fully engaged with every single decision and action we choose to take. We start to then not only become engaged with ourselves and the decision-making process, but we then become engaged as well with engaging ourselves with our external environment through active, conscious decision-making. So let's see what Aquarius needs to know about where they're going to be taking action this week. So we have Parrot Spirit, watch your words. It's number 45, breaking down to number 9. Now, when I'm looking at this card, Parrot Spirit, watch your words. Now, it is my belief that words hold incredible power. And sometimes what we don't realize is similar to surrendering, your mind constantly worrying about a problem and almost seeming counterintuitive. Instead of thinking through a problem, you just kind of let yourself open up to the answer. Same thing with watch your words. There's this quality that there is magic in what we choose to speak, what we choose to say. And that can even be on sorry guys, I'm just going to pop up a message there. That can also be on a level of how we talk to ourselves, where we can sometimes, especially when we're worried about something, and I'm just getting a strong feeling of worry, Aquarius, or just hyperfixation on something that you're trying, that's just kind of in the back of your mind. There's this element here of watch how you phrase this to yourself. So if you're, let's say, trying to work through a problem and you're telling yourself, man, I just can't figure out the answer. I just don't know. This problem's just too big. Or how is this ever going to happen? That there's this element of instead, because this is where we choose to take control back into our lives. Again, we can't control our external environment. We can't control other people in our external environment. That's our seat of destiny. But our internal action taking is where we can bring the control back to ourselves, and that's our free will. And so through free will, we can then change how we speak to ourselves, how we use words. And it's kind of like, when you see a parent and they're talking to their child and they're like, use your words. There is a little bit of that coming through here. And if you're worrying about something, so let's just have an example. Let's say you're saving for something, and it could be a home or a big event like a wedding or something like that. And you're like, man, how am I ever going to save enough money? This is just never going to happen. Well, right there, if you've said to yourself, this is just never going to happen. How is this going to happen? You've just used words that push that ability to save, or actually even your own ability to connect to spirit, to allow the answers to come in. You've just pushed it away. You've said, I'm never going to be able to do this, or how am I ever going to be able to do this? And there's this element of, this is where you can kind of take the control back, is you can start to talk to yourself using different words. So to say something like, instead of, how am I ever going to save this money? I'm never going to be able to make enough, is to say, I'm curious about, so bringing curiosity back in here. I'm curious about how I will be able to utilize my strengths to achieve my goal. Or I can't wait until I get to step into my new home. Or to bring it back to also enjoying the journey, because this is a big element here of, we sometimes get so focused on the end goal, especially when we're comparing ourselves to other people and we're worried about even maybe perhaps how somebody else in our life who's also working towards the same goal, like let's say a spouse or a significant other who's also part of an external plan, how that can kind of come into play. And we get to this point where we kind of forget about the journey and the enjoyment of the journey and the enjoyment of maybe even collaborating with somebody to achieve an end result. And we get so focused on just getting there. I just need to plan this wedding, or I just need to buy this house, and then I'll be happy, and then I can connect with my spouse, or then I can connect with, I just need to finish this project at work, and then I'll connect with my coworkers, instead of bringing it back and enjoying that experience. And so really where you can again, change your internal monologue or dialogue, depending on how you look at it, is bringing that back to engaging with, in the present moment, your journey towards that end goal. So saying, I'm really excited to see how much I can put aside today, how much I saved today towards my goal. Or going to bed at night. And there is a little bit of this element of gratitude coming in as well, of going to bed at night and thinking with gratitude about the things that went well, or the steps that got you closer to that end result. I'm so grateful for the job that I have, that although I may not be making $1 million, I'm making enough to put aside a little bit towards my goal every day. Or I had so much fun. I'm grateful for going, whatever, let's say you're planning a wedding, going venue shopping with my significant other. It really brought us closer together. And I'm really excited about the wedding to be. So there's this element of, again, bringing it back to the magic power of words, to say, I can't wait until my wedding day. I can't wait until the venue we visited today is realized in the way that I've always seen for my wedding, something along those lines. Bringing ourselves back to a place of excitement and anticipation and engagement in the moment with something that might be a little ways down the line. And that can be hard. It can be hard when we're, like, let's say, planning something, quite a ways away. I mean, this can even be when you're looking at work. Maybe perhaps you're working towards a promotion and you know that promotion isn't going to happen until 2023. But there is this quality of enjoying the process now, of all the things that you're learning, and telling yourself over and over again, I'm so grateful for what I'm learning now. I'm so grateful for how I can engage with this process. I am excited about my promotion. I'm excited as to how I can utilize what I'm learning now then. I'm excited as to what I'm experiencing now at that time. So you're starting to merge the present with the future. And there's this quality that's coming through here with this element of flight. And the number 45 breaking down to a number 9, there's this quality here of kind of completing something, this beautiful element of the number 9 is that number for me of the magician in the tarot. It's not technically the magician, but I look at that as it's a number that harnesses the magic of life, of lessons learned, of understanding what you... Oh, hold on just a moment, guys. I have a little one waking up from a nap. All right, thanks for waiting there. Okay, so anyways, going back to the number 9. So the number 9 is where we get a chance to, it's the wrap up of a cycle. So it's where we get a chance to take all the lessons learned and we get to apply them and bring them forward into the next cycle. So there's this element here of flying towards a goal, flying towards kind of the next chapter almost. But that this week, it's all about being conscious of making the decision to change how you speak to yourself about a goal in the future. And then bringing that back and actually then externalizing that to be able to start verbalizing this outwardly as well, and to be conscious of how you're verbalizing it. So if you're working, let's say, towards a work project, how are you talking about the company and the project and anything else that's going on in your work with your coworkers or other people that you're tasked to interact with, like your manager? Are you coming across as positive? Are you expressing your enthusiasm for perhaps the position down the line that you're excited to move into? Are you talking excitedly about the project that you're working on? Or are you speaking negatively? Are you doing more of the kind of, cooler, water cooler type chat of, complaining about your coworkers or complaining about your work situation, instead of coming from a place of optimism and, again, excitement, and being able to also express what you have your eye on in a positive, excited way? Because the more that you do that, the more that you're engaging with those feelings of optimism and excitement and actually with the element of faith. So when we're stepping into courage, and courage, I always link courage with action together because it takes courage to take action. It's actually very difficult when you think about it when you're talking to coworkers, let's say around the water cooler, quote unquote, most people don't even know what the water cooler is anymore, but let's say you're just chatting on a Zoom call before your meeting, or you're in the office and you're just, have that moment to chat and catch up with a coworker, or even a vendor or somebody else, client. Do you express yourself in a positive way? Or let's say somebody else is complaining about your work environment or complaining about something. Can you have the courage to, instead of also complaining or kind of falling into that trap of talking negatively about something, can you have the courage to express yourself optimistically, to express yourself from a place of enthusiasm, to turn the conversation around both internally and externally to one of positivity, but also to one where you're engaging again with hope for the future, with optimism for the present, with happiness and gratitude. Maybe you have a coworker that's talking negatively about the work environment, and you can say, well, that's not my experience. I'm sorry you're feeling that way. Maybe we can talk through solutions as to, I'd hate for you to feel that way when I love my job. What can I do to help get you to a place where you can feel enthusiastic about work? So again, this is kind of how we get to engage in a more beneficial way, in a more faith-based way. And I don't mean faith-based in traditional religion, a religious sense. I mean faith-based in that we have faith in the goodness of life, faith in positive outcomes, faith in what is meant to be for us will be. And the more that we engage with that, engage our unique, authentic self with our external environment in a fearless and courageous way, the more we have faith that we will experience and step into our spiritual purpose. All right, now I'm going to pull a final card for contemplation. And contemplation is where we get to engage this week with a sense of reflection. We get to engage with taking a look at basically the consequences of our actions. So if we think about it, if we're starting the week with curiosity and we're thinking about where we need to kind of surrender that, mental chatter, put our brain at rest around some specific topic so that we can allow our body to also physically rest. And then we're taking courageous action towards changing our internal monologue or dialogue, as well as our external dialogue with others, to one that is more positive, with faith in the future, faith that you can achieve the goal that you're working towards. Now we're going to take a look at what you should keep in mind as you're choosing to take action, and really what you're meant to kind of take away and learn from this week. Let's see, what does Aquarius need to know? What does Aquarius need to learn about this week? Let's see. What does Aquarius need to know for contemplation? That is a lot of cards. Let's see if we can get just a few less. Just a few less for Aquarius here. What does Aquarius need to know about contemplation? There we go. Oh, how cool. All right, so it says, come to the edge. And it's number 36, breaking down to number 9 as well. Again, completion of a cycle, bringing forward lessons learned as you jump into the next chapter. I love these two cards. There's an element here of flight and movement, and like her almost about to leap off and again move into the new. And I love that there's also all these little hearts. I don't know if you guys can see them, but there's this element here of in contemplation. When we're thinking about come to the edge, there is this element now of coming to that place of, again, faith. But in addition to that, when we're talking about contemplation, contemplation is that last piece in the puzzle. It's so important because this is where we get to connect. And connection is so important with how we experience our personal meaning and our spiritual purpose. If we're not connecting with ourselves, if we're not connecting with others, and we're not connecting with our external environment, we're not really connecting with meaning or purpose because we don't hold context. We're not aware of some core key aspect of our experience. And here, there's really this feeling that's coming through of connecting to that feeling of security, of faith, of optimism, and of love, that you are fully supported in what you're working towards, that whatever you've been kind of mentally worried about and can't quite get a clear picture, or you're wondering how the solution is going to happen, or you're wondering if you're ever going to get this promotion, or you're ever going to be able to save for a wedding or a house. This is saying, yes, yes. But you have to take that leap. You have to be ready to kind of, almost put your money where your mouth is, but in the energy of love. And when we think about love, love is what connects us to not only spirit and that element of kind of universal acceptance, but it's also what connects us to others. And there is this feeling here of connecting yourself with others, of perhaps allowing yourself to, again, we're thinking about letting your mind rest, of coming to the edge and just clearing the mind. There's an element here that this card reminds me of the Fool card in the tarot, which is the first card in the major arcana. It's what starts the journey of the Fool in the tarot. And that it's almost the same depiction of somebody who is looking to almost like joyously leap off the edge of a cliff because they have the full knowledge that the universe will support them and that they have everything that they need to be able to start their journey ahead. And there's this element here of what you've been worrying about is part of your journey, and to have faith that it will manifest for you, that you will be able to step into that. And I think this week, if you can kind of just let your mind go from whatever you've been hyper focused on and tap into rest, and then be able to prepare yourself by the end to have those answers that come in, to really be able to step off that ledge into this new chapter and to watch yourself soar. Beautiful reading, Aquarius. This week is going to be one that will be illuminating. Of course, this is also a timeless reading, so if you're watching this at a later date, then this is going to be a fun time for you. All right. So if you'd like to book a personal tarot reading or a one-on-one coaching session, the link to my website is in the description box below. Every one of my readings is meant to help illuminate your very own I am question so that you can see your highest potential and experience where you can be of service on a spiritual level to help you see where you can be benefiting the collective experience, as well as also just to be seen. That is really the goal of all my readings, is to help you be seen as who you are as a unique individual, and to really experience that feeling of hope and optimism and the beauty of life, as well as bringing that inwards to experience the hope and optimism and the beauty of yourself. All right, Aquarius, have a fantastic rest of the week, and I hope you also take a look at your other weekly readings. Additionally, I will be coming out with a monthly spiritual connection reading that will be a little bit more in depth than these readings. All right, bye, Aquarius.